All right, so my name is Benoit Glazer, and I'm the conductor here at the Cirque Soleil show. That's the job, but it's also what allows me to do what I do. So I have 15 minutes to do this, so I'm gonna go quickly on the history of it, and then tell you what we do exactly now, how they're set up and how it works, and then what we're looking at in the future, what we hope happens in the future. So. Essentially, we were here for about a year and a half, and my wife and I, and our nights off were in the middle of the week back then. And so there's very, very hard to go and experience live music and like or even like art openings and stuff in the middle of the week. It just doesn't happen. So of course, in my line of work, I'm always going to work on Friday night and Saturday night with the big nights. So eventually we said, well, let's just make our own. So we started in our suburban house in 2000. Having, just handing out flyers, trying to get people to come. We had like 20 people the first night, So we started, and then, things started happening on their own, like very, very quickly. Like within 3 months, we didn't have to do much, and people would show up. And, at first, it was, the band at work, we played like, we did the concert, like I put music together, let's play this, or let's, our first night was the Goldberg variations for a very eclectic group of instruments, that kind of stuff. And, but eventually, of course, people said, I want to play, and I said, well, that's fantastic, because of course, Orlando is a very unique city for the musician community. I mean, I see a couple of musicians here, so they know what I'm talking about, because there's a lot of steady work comparatively to other cities, and so you get a lot of talented musicians, but then when you have steady work, you're looking for an outlet to play music that you actually like, or maybe that's a little bit. You're looking to play music not to support food and beverage, which is what most people do most of the time. So, anyways, fast forward to 5 years ago, or actually, let's say 8 years ago. We had the first Brazilian night in the suburban house, which in the meantime, I was like tearing down walls, trying to make it bigger as much as I could. But that night, like the house absolutely overflowed. We had over 100 people in a normal house. And we had, people in the backyard, people in the front yard, all the windows open so people could hear the music. And so we said, we have to go bigger a little bit, So we did. We shop for a lot, and we built a house, and now we have the house. I designed the house. I had 4 designs for the different lot sizes, your shapes. In downtown there's a lot of narrow, long lots and stuff. So I'd been working on the design. So when we got our lot, which is a square lot, we went with a square design, and that's what we ended up with now. So fast forward to now. Okay, so how it works is very, very easy. First of all, we have a nonprofit, which is called the Timucua Arts Foundation, which is, I call a micro nonprofit unorganization, because it's tiny, nobody gets paid, and the budget, it's less than $10,000 a year, and so the whole thing is essentially free. Like the whole thing is very cost effective as far as the way we work. What I do is I open up the calendar, and then I tell people I've opened up the calendar here, that the dates available, and then it fills up really, really quickly. And so what happens for the person who comes is this: people bring wine and food, or their favorite beverage, whatever that is, and so it's very, when you walk in the house, the first room that you see is the food room. It's the dining room. So there's like a table for the wine and beverages, and then there's a big table for the food. And then, you walk in, you take a seat. Hopefully you find a seat. There's a couple of times that, when Larry Coryell just played a few weeks ago, it was like insane. People like standing everywhere and sitting on the floor everywhere. But normally, on average, we get between 100 and 200 people in the house. And that's very, I mean, up to 200 people is still comfortable. Let's say 100 people is like, there's room to spare. Yet, it doesn't feel empty. You know, it feels full because it's a house. You know, it's not a... And so, and then, of course, you get the concert. And after a concert, people mingle and, you know, talk with the artist. We have an artist, a live artist. She knows because she's done it. So, and that we started that several years ago, so that, you know, you see a concert, you see somebody working, you see some works being lit. You know, I realized early that when we started showing art, that if you light it properly, it's very effective, and people, it affects people a different way. And then we had people starting to work live, either painting or sculpting, or even we had a guy do pottery on a wheel. It completes the experience in a very unique way for the audience. And I was just telling earlier that usually the way I'll send an email every time we have a concert. I send one email, so that's it. That's the only way, or you could check the website. It's on the website. But I actually have somebody who does Facebook and Twitter, but I'm not on Facebook, so I've never even seen her work. I don't know what it looks like. So it happens on its own, basically. That's the main thing. We have groups from Japan, Europe, New York City. What happened along the way is that we ended up kind of getting into partnership with different either people or organizations. So, for example, the Accidental Music Festival, which had a lot of events here. So we're working closely with Chris Belt all the time. Like, essentially, since I have the nonprofit and he doesn't, I launder money for him. I take care of the money situation so that I can give receipts. So donations go through the foundation, and then the expenses go through the foundation. So it's a service I offer him because of what he does is exactly lined up with how we see things. And a very special group of people also are the Civic-Minded Five, and they're the reason why we get so many international groups, because they fund it. So essentially, they used to have concerts like that, 15 years ago, and then they stopped. They kind of broke up, and then when we moved downtown here, we were just down the street. Like, I came on the bike first, and I realized I forgot all my stuff, so I went back, and I was cutting it short, so I came back on the car. But really, it's a sin to come in the car from here. So they see somebody they like, they want to see live, and they use my place as a venue. So it's a symbiotic relationship that we have, in that I use them to get all these great international groups. And they have a special taste in music, and they like avant-garde kind of stuff. So stuff that would not get play in Montreal, in Orlando, otherwise. And so they allow us to experience something that we wouldn't otherwise do, and then I allow them to have a venue. And the venue is like, for those who've been there, you've seen it. It's easier to. It's kind of hard to describe, but when you walk in the main room, there's two balconies, so it's like this, but there's another one on top. And so I guess it's about the size of this here, except like it's lined up the other way with the balconies this way. Something like that, size-wise, it's about what it is. It's my living room. And what I do for the musicians, I do two things. I provide them with as much gear as I can. So I have like a couple of acoustic basses, drum set, amps, all the stuff that it's difficult to travel with, so that I make, even for local people, they don't have to come and the drudgery of setting up and tearing down. I try to avoid that for them as much as possible. I have the sound system, everything else. And also, of course, I provide them with an audience, which is cool. And that's kind of unwittingly, it just happens. And the other thing I do is I produce a DVD of the event. So I have, a small control room, and I have minimal but high-end recording equipment, DPA mics, Crane Song Spider, stuff that you don't see in every home studio. And I have a 4-camera, they're HD consumer cameras, but I have 4 cameras, so it's a decent-looking product. the audio is good enough that at least one group has made a CD out of it. You know, they just took the raw tracks, and they're from Nashville, and they have the Live at the White House CD. And the place is called the White House because it's white, or it tries to stay white. You know, things don't stay white too long here. But also because I figured, you know, if people stay up late, and most of our events on either Sunday night or Monday night, so, you know, the next morning you get to work, you're a little bloodshot and stuff, you can say, well, or maybe you're late. You say, well, I was at the White House last night, so it's a good excuse, you know. Just in case people don't kind of realize that. I don't capitalize my W and the H so that I officially avoid confusion. But anyways, so you see all of the pictures behind me, if you get bored with me, they're all past events stuff. You know, there was so many more that I could have included, but I think this year we're going to have like 36 concerts. And so we actually don't pay the musicians. Of course, the dream, let's talk about the future a little bit. The dream, of course, would have to have enough money that all the artists, like, you know, you get $300 just for showing up, and the musicians also. At the same time, there's something special about the fact that people don't get paid. You know, I can't ask anything. I can't say, well, play 2 sets, or play 1 set, or play for an hour at least, or they play as short or as long as they want. They play what they want. I'm not in a position to ask anything, and that's a good thing, you know. This way, they give. They only give what they want to give, and the audience will give back what they want to give, and so it's a very communal thing. Now, the effect on the community are, of course, very, very difficult to assess. I mean, there's many things you can't quantify. What people tell me, of course, is because I'm like preaching to the choir, or in reverse, it's hard to really take that into consideration. Some people are here every time. Some people drive from Tampa and you know, on the Space Coast every time to see these things. But there are a few things that I could tell you happened with that, the concerts, and it's a community that's very special, and actually, even though they only meet there usually, it's very tight-knit. So, for example, my kids were doing capoeira for many years, you know, Brazilian martial art, and one of the girls who participate, or like a friend of theirs, she's like in her late 20s, she had a couple of kids, and she got cancer, and she lost her lower leg. And so I mentioned that on one of the emails. I said, hey, you know, if anybody can help, if everybody, you know, it just turned out that somebody knew the owner of the biggest prosthesis designing and manufacturing company, and within an hour, she was set up to get not only a normal prosthesis, but a sports prosthesis, so that now she's back into doing capoeira with her prosthesis. So, and it's not like running, it's a very unique sport that involves a lot of movement that are not ordinary, so they actually designed something very special for her. And that's just one example. You know, people looking for a job, you know, all that kind of thing that have nothing to do with what we're actually about, and in the essence. But there's been several of these incidents where it's like, that happened because of these people, and they care about each other, and something happens when you get people interested in the arts, and you get them together at the same place. And that's unique, and it's hard to, even though it's hard to quantify or even qualify, it's certainly easy to see and easy to witness the effect. So now for the future, our dream is not to get bigger. I mean, if I had, you know, if I won the lottery, which I can't because I never buy tickets, because in fact I'm scared of winning. I don't want to win too much money. But in any case, if I didn't have to work, we'd just have more events. But we wouldn't change the way we do them in essence, because it's working. It's working very, very well. The dream is that, you know, you're an artist and you love that, so every Wednesday night you start something new in your house about that. And you love poetry, so every Thursday night or once a month, you have a poetry gathering at your place. And you do that something, well, you'll have heavy metal, so you'll have heavy metal night once a month, hopefully in a well soundproofed house. So, but that's the dream, because then ours is a very small community, and it's a very small part of the overall, geographical community. But if something like that starts everywhere, it doesn't have, see, what we have that is unusual is the level of insanity in the venue. Like, the soundproofing, we put like more than the budget that we had to build a house on soundproofing, like about $350,000 in soundproofing in the house. Like the windows alone were just ridiculous, hurricane-proof laminate windows, huge, because the city makes you have 15% transparency in the, all that kind of stuff. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars of stuff that I didn't even want, these windows, But you don't need that to do other things that are in the same vein to create, and it would create the same effect. If you have 20 people a week doing a poetry reading, that's like a little new tumor, So we just want to kind of, instead of our tumor getting very big, we just want to have a lot of tumors everywhere, because then the effect on the overall community is going to be much more great and effective. The effect cannot be more effective, I suppose, but sorry, my English is still not very good. You're very patient because I know my accent is horrendous. It will never leave me. I just came here too late, I guess. So where are we in the, all right, yeah, see, the pottery guy. So, the way to keep in touch with us, I have flyers here. You could take one of those. I have business cards. And we've also produced projects in the past. Like, actually, I should say I've produced projects. And they're in the same vein. It's not like, it actually says Timuqua Records and stuff, but it's all me. So I have a brass band CD, I have a Baroque opera, and a big band. And then now I just finished a soundtrack for a local filmmaker. And so I have those things here. So if you're interested in those, you can go on the website, find out about them. The soundtrack is actually $5 for the download card. I'm done with CDs now. I'm not doing that anymore. I have boxes full of CDs at home. But yeah, so you go on the website, timuqua.com, and then you find out all about what we do, when the events are, And I was telling someone before that I have a few people, not too many, but a few people, I send an email out, and I rarely see what it is on the subject line. So some people don't read my email. They just say, hey, next, it'll say, this Sunday, event this Sunday. And then they'll just show up. And, because I've had people where, if I had not come, I would have never known that I actually like that kind of music. And there's a lot of, avant-garde, especially that of several kinds of avant-garde. It's a live thing, If you're not there, if you're listening to that online, even on a video, if the interaction between the audience and the musicians are not there, it's just, you can't like it. You can't possibly like that stuff. It's like, it's too weird. But then you're there, and then you see the progression of it, and it's like, all of a sudden you become part of it, and it's very, very pleasant. It was very pleasant music. And so, that's a trick for you if you have a specific taste, but you want to open up your stuff, because we'll have, like the next event is on the 12th. It's a folk duo in their 60s. And then, we have like a big band thing. And then we have, let's see, I know that the Civic Minded 5, they're going to come up and plug my holes, because I try to do them every second week, because when they're every week, doing a DVD every week it's a lot of work, And eventually I get like too tired to go on. But they will come and plug the holes so that I have events almost every week. And so, that's about it. Right? I'm done I'm done, 15 minutes. There you go.
Yeah. We're going to take some time for Q&A. So, any questions?
There you go. Musician-wise or artist-wise? Both. That's a good question. funnily enough, for me, that's not what it's about. I'll enjoy an amateur local group as much, and I keep space for these groups. Like sometimes the schedule's looking full, and then I get an email from this, group locally, and hey, we have like a lawyer and blah blah blah, and we do music for fun. And I think that's very, very important, personally, that people play music just for fun, whatever their job. So, of course, I do have, some dream people. Ibrahim Malouf is one of them. Ibrahim Malouf is French trumpet player who plays Lebanese tinged improvisatory music, like I don't want to say jazz, but essentially with a quarter tone trumpet and stuff, and he's a fantastic trumpet player, and is actually a good friend of mine. So, but it's, he lives in France, so it's hard to get over here. But I'd love to get that, and that's the kind of thing that I really enjoy the most musically. It's just perfectly personal taste, because I will put things on that I know I won't like. It's not about that either, it's my taste. I'm not a dictator, I am, but at work mostly. No, just kidding. But what I enjoyed the most is when, like for example, the Jack Wilkins, the Blue and Green project. Jack Wilkins is a saxophone player from Tampa. He's like a jazz saxophone player, but he comes from Appalachia country and that background, and so he kind of melded both with a 2-guitar, 2 basses, sometimes drums and brass section and percussions, and you get this music that fuses jazz with his personal background, and that's what I enjoy the most. Is when somebody has training in a field, and then they bring their childhood, not legacy but baggage, into that, and then make something very special and unique, whatever that may be. We have a Japanese. Actually, Marty Morell is coming also. There's you have to see the website to see what's coming. But that's a good question. I hope it answered. I do have dream people, but hard, I don't want to say that. I don't want to jinx it. What's that?
How do you expect your son to do in the science contest?
Oh, yeah, well, I don't expect anything. I'm just happy that he made it. The question is, well, there's 2 questions. How do I handle scheduling? Well, it's first come, first serve. So I don't refuse anybody. I'll just postpone them until I have an opening. So that's how I get an email. Things on the phone, it's hard for me because I have so many things happening, and I'm senile, so after half an hour, I forgot about it. So the email is much better, but that's what happened. I'll say, well, somebody wanted to play Maz Muse, she's a violinist and singer from New York City, and she's getting pretty big now and stuff. She wanted to play at the house, and so we had to wait for an opening. She's been on the waiting list for a while, and she's a bigger name than a lot of people who play, but I'm not gonna bump somebody out because somebody's. Then, well, next week I can't do it. No, actually I could. I'm open next week. I mean, I try to keep it every second week, also because I don't want to burn the audience. Although we had 4 events in the same week in past January, I had a week off, so I said, okay, let's do it. I didn't say no. I said everybody wanted to come. I said yes. So we had 4 events the same week. It took me 2 weeks of hell to finish these DVDs, It's like, I'm not going to do that again, So I'm just going to postpone them. And if that means, if somebody is on tour and it happens once every 2 years, well, we'll wait. I mean, I have things booked till June 2014, so. Yes. Well, I think there is no city without it, and this so-called city has lived without, or essentially without, with not enough of that for a long, long time, and I think it's time we correct it. Yes, we need to, and the thing is, you you can't say, well, I can't, spend $1 million on a house. You don't have to. You can do it in an apartment. You just have to tailor your thing to your place. And it doesn't have to be complicated. For a poetry reading, you need nothing but poets, or even just somebody who's willing to read other people's poetry, if that's to start with, and you'll be amazed how many poets come out. I mean, I was walking the dog the other night at 11:30 at night after work, and then this guy said, "Oh, nice dog," and we started talking, and he works, I forget where he works, but he works like at some menial job, but he's a poet. So, hey, he's going to come, and eventually when because we've had Ron Whitehead at the house, and we have the occasional poetry-oriented thing, We'll do theater, we'll do dance, whatever happens. But, I think that the city becomes a city, that the town becomes a city when, what makes a city? A bunch of buildings, or the people who live in these buildings, It's like, so I think that's what it does. To answer your second question, you said, because my son right now is in Houston in the finals of the International Space Design, International Space Settlement Design Competition. It's a NASA thing, and so he's in Johnson Space Center, like right now. It just started, so I don't know how he's going to do, but I don't care. He's there, I hope he doesn't care either. So yeah. No, that's a very good question. It's time. Like every time we have a concert, it reinforces my view that these things are good, and we need to have more of them. And I wish that if somebody would do more things on Monday nights, so I could go to them, and have nothing to worry about. Just go enjoy and listen, So because I do the camera work. I do the recording, so I'm always busy during the events. I enjoy it, of course, but sometimes I wish some other people would take the torch, and so I just have to show up, So but every time we have a concert, for all these years, there's hundreds of concerts, it reinforced that idea that wouldn't that be great if other people did that too, And I know for a fact that other people are doing it. There's a person in the Atlantic. I just had an email from somebody who wanted to borrow the house because her piano is not good enough for who's coming, but she has these things at her house, So I said, yeah, sure, we've done that too. Like, we'll just lend the house. I'm not even there. Do it, It's okay. So if it's important to the community, we'll do it, This is for me. I'm not there. My wife has to do all the work. So. Any more questions? Yes. And Stephen Hawking is a big influence on me. I wanted to be a physicist when I was a kid. Music was an accident in my life. I have several heroes, musical heroes, but I think a big hero of mine is Stephen Hawking. Yeah. Go figure. I can't even count.
That idea you were talking about of the tumors popping up all over the city is really unique and cool. And I'm wondering, what would you say to the individual who says, "I want to start another small little tumor"? What piece of advice would you give them as someone who's had a successful community growing and building for them trying to start?
Well, just do it. Now, you have something that I didn't have when I started. You have me. So if you tell me, and I have more than 1,000 people in my email list, so I announce something once, by the way, so-and-so is having something that's on Wednesday, blah, 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 contact that person. Your email list is going to fill up pretty quickly. You're going to have, the last email I just mentioned that, I'm looking for artists, because, I try to match the artist with the music, and within 3 hours of sending the email, I had 5 or 6 responses. That's enough to get me through the next couple of months. It's fantastic. So do it. That's my advice. Start. It's not complicated. All you need is 5 people and the topic. It could be talking, it wouldn't even have to be about arts, really. Like you could have one about physics. You could, I know this guy who comes here, he's a doctor in physics from Caltech, and he always wants to talk physics. He's always looking for an audience and a interlocutor, like how do you say that? Like somebody to, interaction with somebody who's interested about physics, And so, it could be about anything else, like web design, why not? Just this thing about something else than normal. But the arts, to me, have a power that very few other human, well, first of all, it's the highest form of human activity. There's no doubt about that, I mean, in my mind, there's no other more complete human activity than creating something out of something else. So you take something and you create something seemingly out of nothing. Of course, it's not out of nothing. There's paints there, there's bottles of paint, and then you create a painting. There's actually music, it's almost out of nothing. It's something, you have an idea in your mind and it comes out. And so, yeah, I think the arts are important. I don't see any disadvantages. I see a lot of advantages. Like, for example, I don't have an alarm system. I have video cameras, like a surveillance system, which I've never plugged in. We've been there for 5 years. I haven't plugged it. And even though there's a lot of valuable instruments in the house, and the only time I'm really careful about locking the doors is when there's artwork in the house that doesn't belong to me. Sometimes people keep their things for a week or whatever, which we love because we get artwork in the house. So that's the only time I'm paranoid a little bit about the security situation in the house. Who's going to rob my house? They like my house. They want to come back to my house. Who's going to rob my house? I mean, I remember when we were building the house, I went around. There's some homeless people around my area, like I-4, that Kaylee exit. There's always, in the park, we have the Wavy Park in the morning, like homeless guys kind of assemble there because it's a cool place to be. And I talk to them often, but during the construction phase of the house, I talked to them. I was, hey, guys, you see that big white marshmallow-looking thing there? We're building this house to have concerts in the house. So you're invited. By the way, it's like if you want to come, you can come. We don't get many, but we get the occasional guy who's going to come and have a little bit of food. But they respect, very, very much, they respect that because, they respect the offer. So I didn't get any copper ripped out of my house. And I didn't have any problems. I said, all I'm asking you to do is keep an eye on the house, So I have like a fleet of people looking after the house, It's my own human security system, So, and not only that, but even all the people who come, they're my security system. So that's taken out of the way, so I don't have to worry about, about that. And I don't see any disadvantages or problems with that, really. I mean, we have the occasional broken glass, happens, the glass falls on the floor, maybe a little bit of wine gets spilled. It's a granite floor, so I don't care. And no, not at all. It's gotten so automatic now. It takes me maybe an hour to set up, an hour to tear down. It's no big deal. They're in school anyways during the day, so that's when I do the DVD. It changes nothing in our life except for me, because I have to spend, a few hours making that DVD. That's about it. It's all automatic. It's self-propelling. So and I'm telling you that if you start something like that, it'll take no time at all. That'll be the same thing for you. These things they self-generate after a while. It just happened. It's organized on its own. Like I had a problem with the IRS at some point. Well, somebody who comes to the counselor, I'll take care of it, and she took care of it. It's like, hey, that's fantastic. I have a problem. Somebody who enjoys the concerts will solve it for me, or likely will help me solve it. So it's a great pool of talent because these people are not all musicians or artists. They do other things in life, you know. I had a problem with the insurance. You know, the insurance, they dropped me because of the concerts. But they knew ahead of time there were concerts. So I mentioned that in an email, and I had 27 lawyers offer their services for free if I had a problem, you know, that I needed their services. So, you know, there you go. That's what happens when you create a community, you know. They see the service, they see the benefit to them. They'll help me keep that benefit alive, you know, if I have a problem, so.